So moving forward from the two keynote speakers who I would like to thank, I would like to start off with a panel discussion, and note that all the speakers will be available for questions and answers during this panel's discussion. But I'd like to start off by where it all begins, and I notice that there are 3 geologists on this panel, 3 geologists on this conference, which is unusual. But I've been a geologist, Mandeka being a geologist, and also James being a geologist. And James, I'd like to start off with you on the exploration side. And exploration, as we all know, is where it all begins. You have to discover diamonds. We always say when you want to see elephants, you go to the country. When you want to discover diamonds, then you have to go to diamond country. And Africa, a very large continent, has plenty, is very, very well endowed. So, James, can I just pass over to you and ask you to just give a quick overview of the exploration process, about what you look for when you're starting projects, and how that process operates until you choose where to spend your money, how you raise your money for exploration, and what the ultimate goal is. So James, if I can pass over to you, James Campbell.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin, and thank you very much indeed for the conference organisers for organising such an important virtual conference. If I start at the beginning, as Martin guided, what do we actually look for when we look for diamonds itself? Well, the first thing we look for are what they call kimberlites. Kimberlites are basically extinct volcanoes which exist in many of the old parts of the world. And indeed, Africa is host to many areas of what we call craton, or old parts of the world, particularly Southern Africa, Central Africa, and West Africa, but also Canada and Russia too. There is a kind of a saying there are 6,000 kimberlites in the world, or 6,000 that we know of, 600 of which contain diamonds, of which 60 have been or are diamond mines. So these are the needle in the haystack for what we are looking for. How do we look for them? We use technologies such as geophysics, sampling, geochemistry, drilling, bulk sampling, and we start the process from maybe just the desert in the Kalahari, for example, all the way through to finding the kimberlite, assessing the value of the kimberlite itself, feasibility study, and through mining. So what kind of companies actually do this? Well, they're obviously majors and juniors, and I was fortunate to spend half of my life with a major and now the second half with a junior. However, most of the exploration discoveries are typically done by the juniors, and many term them the exploration arm of the diamond industry itself. However, there are not many of us around at the moment, and I'd like to touch on that when I conclude the talk around what Botswana Diamonds does. There were many more of us around before the global financial crisis. The typical focus of exploration, though, is Canada and Southern Africa. So the most difficult part, possibly, is raising money. Once you've got a bankable feasibility study, or you have a mine itself, then you can raise bank finance, and there are many different forms of finance available to you. But when you're an exploration company like Botswana Diamonds, where your investors are basically relying on 3 things: the ability of management, the technical risk of the area, and the political risk, and I want to touch on political risk. It's basically a judgment call. And my chairman has got a great saying. Essentially, we're looking mainly at the 3 Fs: friends, families, and fools, because they're the kind of people who would invest in companies such as these kind of companies. However, there are good margins to be made. One of my previous companies, African Diamonds, which basically led the development of what is now the Karowe mine in Botswana, the original shareholders made 25 times their money. There are 3 main stock exchanges which we look to raise the money on: the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Australian Stock Exchange, and London AIM. And just a little note for discussion, panel and everybody, is that local stock exchanges, and we're listed on the Botswana Stock Exchange and London, whether they be the Botswana Stock Exchange, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, are notoriously very poor for raising exploration and development capital. And if I'd like to now quickly move on to political risks. So what do investors look at aside from management track record? And I'm fortunate to have led the development of at least 3 different diamond mines. Technical risk, it's political risk. Number one, which is absolutely critical, is security of tenure. Once you start the prospecting process, if you find something, you've got to be virtually guaranteed, you can continue mining it, assuming you meet all the required regulations. Local ownership is often seen as a negative from an investment perspective if it's a free carry. And sadly, in many countries in the world, that is the case. And thirdly, and really importantly, it's simplicity versus complexity of regulations. Investors don't like to see complex regulations. And certainly those 3 points, Botswana is absolutely a model jurisdiction and well recognized as such, not just by the Fraser Institute, but by investors all over the world. The 4th item, and it might be a little prickly, but I'm going to raise it nonetheless, is that of royalty. A government royalty as opposed to government taxes is also seen as a negative, particularly for marginal and small deposits, because those marginal and small deposits essentially won't be put into production if there is a royalty. And finally, something I've been talking about on many platforms such as this for some time is that of local incentivization. It's no surprise that the Canadian exploration industry and the Australian exploration industry are one of the most successful in the world. And that's because there is local incentivization, such as flow through shares, where individual investors can get a significant tax rebate in what a high risk investment. And Martin, just in conclusion, what is Botswana Diamonds? Botswana Diamonds is listed on the London AIM market and the Botswana Stock Exchange. Almost unbelievably for an Africa Diamond Conference, we're the only company exploring for diamonds in all 3 Southern African countries of Botswana, South Africa and Zimbabwe, which we believe is the most prospective in the world. And certainly if you look at the production, that gives good testament to it. In Botswana, we recently announced the acquisition of Sikaka, which is Petra Diamonds' arm in Botswana, subject to a number of conditions precedent. And many have spoken about the pandemic, and I'm sure people will come back to it momentarily. But the pandemic also creates time of opportunity. And we basically did the due diligence and negotiated this particular deal during the current lockdown. We're very active in grassroots diamond exploration in Botswana. We firmly believe there is a new discovery to be made, and it's, of course, an excellent company to work. We are active in South Africa, the only junior active in diamond exploration in South Africa, and particularly focusing on the area around Marsfontein mine, which almost unbelievably had a 3.5-day payback. And then we've begun to take baby steps in Zimbabwe. We have a joint venture with Vast Resources PLC, and we have begun to apply for our own licenses. And then very finally on the diamond market, I know there is a tremendous feeling of negativity around the diamond market at the moment because rough diamond sales are drastically down, rough diamond prices are drastically down. But as an explorer, we tend to take a medium to a long-term view because we have yet to find that particular mine. And we firmly believe in the industry fundamentals in terms of supply and demand. And we firmly believe that Africa is the destination of choice. So Martin, I've tried to kind of touch on all the little myriad pieces which exploration companies and explorers have to focus on.
James, thank you very much. And I think very pertinent to say, geologists and exploration geologists tend to take the long-term view, because whatever you discover tomorrow won't be coming into production for another 4 or 5 years' time. And one of the risks I see actually with the diamond industry is the lack of exploration being done for diamonds, and who is going to be finding the next diamond mines in 10, 15 years' time. So thank you, James, and congratulations on your recent acquisition of the Botswana project.